There's a real movement now, whether it's NFTs, whether it's just buying crypto, whatever it is, the people that are holding it believe in a different future than the one that we seem to be heading for. And I think that's where we see this going. Whereas, Hollywood would control the narrative. Pretty much the crowd, right, can control the narrative. And, if you think 10 years in the future where anyone can just upload, get their movie funded, and it can be on any narrative, it will completely change the way that the narrative of films.
Welcome back to Cool Hand Crypto, where cinema, culture, and crypto collide. My name is Matt Silverman, and please remember to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Today's guest will be introducing us to a new movie funding platform, Moviecoin.com, which allows fans to invest in film projects they're excited about, all through the magic of crypto, NFTs, and the blockchain. Here to tell us more, team leads James Mackie and James Hickey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the welcome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt.
Great
Cheers.
to be on the show.
Awesome. No, thanks for joining me. So for our podcast listeners, if you could each introduce yourselves just so they know whose voice is coming from what name.
I'm James Mackie.
And I'm James Hickey.
You guys are old friends, it sounds like. How did you guys meet?
Oh, many moons ago now, probably when I was about 16, 17 years old in London, introduced on a night out, and been good friends ever since. Worked together briefly in the past, and back again now, partnering up on Moviecoin.
I do want to focus mainly on Moviecoin here, but it sounds like both of your professional histories have kind of made you unique to create something like Moviecoin.com. So can you tell us a little bit about your career history, your tech background, and all of that?
Yeah, so my background is mainly technology. So I started coding when I was 11. I'm like an autodidact, so I taught myself how to code. I read a book back then. It was sort of Cold Fusion and PHP. It was web front end and back end stuff, SQL servers, and I was building websites when, what you'd refer to now as Web 2, when I was 13, 14, and 15, and I was, charging £1,000 a time to make a website, and from that I built a web development agency. I was coding probably for about 20 years, and then I took on other coders who would work in the business for me and with me. So and then after that I built a cloud computing business that I ran for 7 years. I exited from that 6 years ago, and that was actually my third tech company. Since then I've just been in this area. But also, I'd done so much work. I was always behind a screen, and I am again now. I just thought, why don't I try something completely different? So I went to an acting school, and I just went full time. Being behind a screen, I was quite, I wasn't out of my shell. I was more of an introvert, and a few friends were acting, and they said, look, why don't you come to this acting school? And this was in 2017. So I went, and getting, in front of a class was a really scary thing, but it really helped my sort of social skills, and I ended up going full time for a year and a half. So since then I've been in some movies, acted in some movies, it's been a really good experience. So I guess that's where the two marry. That I can say officially that I understand the movie industry, and I definitely understand technology. And I've been working in blockchain for like the last 10 years and just keeping an eye on everything.
Fantastic. And so what did you see in James Hickey that you saw was a great partner to create a platform like this?
Well, James is my best friend amongst many other things. I mean, I've never met anyone that has the foresight that James has. So he phoned me up. He said, look, I found this cryptocurrency. It's called Bitcoin. It's $1. I think you should buy it. And I said, James, I think you're crazy. Like, who's going to buy this? There's no value, So, and then obviously I saw it go up. And he said, look, Ethereum, it was $6 at the time. And I was buying Ethereum when it went to $16 because I saw it almost 3x. Then James told me to buy Cardano when it was 2 cents, and I bought 5 cents Cardano actually, and it went up to $3. So he had very good foresight. And even before that, it was 1999, and I built an online home selling platform. It was before its time. And I remember James said, look, why don't you build an online video sharing portal in 99, 8 years before YouTube was even an idea.
Wow.
And again, I said, James, why would people want to share videos of themselves publicly online? That was my answer. So
what a stupid idea.
Yeah. I thought that, right, in '99. I really honestly thought that. And the same with Bitcoin. I thought, why would you pay $1 for one Bitcoin? Who's going to buy it off you? If I buy 1,000 of them, it's a waste of $1,000. And, and time again. So James has got incredible foresight, much better than I have. And he'll always play this down because to him it seems normal the way his brain works. But it's, I tell everybody the story, those stories. And, James is technically good. My first tech company I had that actually made some money, I launched in 2001, where I employed staff and we had an office. And James was the first person to work there. And so we were 21 at the time, so we had a good idea of how we worked together. And you stay in contact with some friends and not with others, and we've always been hanging out and in contact, no matter which part of the world we live in. And so I just knew, and James has just got a very, 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 very good, a very good understanding of, and I don't like using all the keywords, but he's got a very good understanding of all of the technology that encompasses these new tokens, shall we say?
Yeah.
It's very, very kind of you there.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
How much did you pay him to say that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So tell me about your initial conversations as far as moviecoin.com.
I recall that the first ones, I'll be honest, funny enough, after James said I've got great foresight, I didn't really get the vision, to be honest with you, but it's because I'm not a big movie guy.
Sure.
I love movies, but I'm not, really into the movies or the production or that kind of whole scene. So, I get crypto, but I didn't really see how we could...
Have you at least seen your friends' films?
I very briefly.
That's a no.
Yeah.
That's definitely a no.
Yeah, but I didn't really get the whole thing at first. It did actually take me a few sessions and a few talks, and when we spoke to the development team about doing it, then I started to think, actually, this makes sense. And what really kind of has driven me and made me see sense in it is speaking to directors and producers that don't get a good deal. So I'm kind of more incentivized by helping the creative guys, more than driven by kind of the profit and the money side of things, So that's where I got it, really.
Absolutely. You don't have to reach far to find a filmmaker who got a bad deal.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've spoken to 2 today, for example. So yeah.
Why don't you give us the elevator pitch of Moviecoin for people who are just don't know what this platform is? What is it? We
are using technology, crypto technology, to fund movies, to crowdfund movies. It's best to probably say it from the start. So 2016, 2017, we came up with the idea and we purchased the domain name, moviecoin.com. I think we paid $30,000, something like that. I could be wrong. I think it was around that amount. So we came up with the idea and we sort of pushed it to a few people, but it was just a little bit too early. So, you had this whole NFT explosion and quite a big DeFi movement. And using those other technologies, in DeFi specifically where you have decentralized exchanges, and in NFTs where you have the sale of digital art and you can attach different things to that smart contract, we said, right, the time's right to launch Moviecoin. So, we're trying to make this as decentralized as possible, but at the moment there's, we're getting there, right? It's a slow process. So we have a thing at the top of Moviecoin where anybody can list a movie. So anyone can list a movie. It could be, a $10,000 student project, or it could be a $100 million Hollywood project. And they'll list the movie, and then essentially people can purchase NFTs from that movie, and each NFT represents a profit share in the movie. And we have agreements and contracts that are signed up with the movie maker, and whichever percentage comes back from the movie, it's distributed passive, without using legal speak, it's distributed evenly to the amount of the investment that those holders put in. So that's basically it. You pick a movie to invest in. If it makes a profit, you get a profit returned.
It's tokenizing the production of movies, I think is we could say.
Yeah, and underpinning all of that, we have our own token, which is called Movie. So investors can purchase the token on a decentralized exchange, and I guess you could see that token as, obviously it's based on trading volume. but we see it as like an overall results-driven approach to all of the movies together.
And essentially, the proceeds from that initially are going to be used to fund more movies, which then generate more NFTs and then allow the guys to purchase them. And further down the line, we've got some utility stuff planned with the token, like to be able to use it for special movie deals and premieres and cinema tickets, this kind of thing. That's where we're trying to go with it.
And we can, like, you probably want us to go later, but we can go into like phase 2 and phase 3 of what we're building now in the background. But yeah, essentially it's crowdfunding movies using blockchain technology.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I do want to get to all of it. And I love this concept, and I love the decentralized nature that film financing is headed towards with platforms like yours. So what makes your platform more... what would you say to a filmmaker who's deciding between using your platform and going on OpenSea and releasing a set of their own NFTs, whatever they are, and trying to fund their film that way?
We welcome that. You know, there's this is such a big industry, as you know, right? So there's enough room for lots of other movie coins that, you know, we've heard other people trying to do the same thing. There's lots of room for however film funders can generate profit, because, you know, it seems to be quite illiquid making movies. Everyone we speak to, it's hard for them to raise money. So and there's the money seems to be going into crypto rather than out of it at the moment, even with the way things have been looking the last couple of months. So, you know, we welcome anybody. You know, obviously you've got to be very careful of you know, copycat accounts and giving the wrong keys to the wrong people, so I think we offer something where it's because a lot of it will be through the NFTs, but we're also going to have our own fund through our ICO, and the majority of that money is just going to go to filmmakers without them having to sell any NFTs. And this is quite confusing, and we're working around the messaging of getting all of this right.
Yeah, I mean, it's still at a stage where the whole industry of, you know, anything is very complex. And, you know, if you're making movies, some of these guys just don't have time to go and understand how to use MetaMask and Uniswap and OpenSea. And, you know, if we can kind of manage that for them and still give them a far better deal than a normal VC investment route into their film, then that's kind of great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are you curating the projects that are listed on Moviecoin, or can anyone put a project up there?
Anyone can put a project up, anybody, but it doesn't go up straight away. So end goal, anyone puts a movie up, the crowd use a voting consensus protocol on a decentralized autonomous organization that we would be, and the crowd pick for the movies, and it's down to them what gets funded. At the moment, there's a little bit of human intervention that's required. So we've got a guy who's very experienced in running or working at one of the largest film funds in the world, and he's on our team. And, you know, he's giving us an edge in the right direction. But, you know, even saying that, we've been on the phone today to 2 producers that are uploading movies now, and we watched the movies that they've made yesterday, and they're incredible. The acting's on point, and, you know, obviously it's hard not to get emotionally pulled into us wanting to get those movies funded, but we have to obviously listen to the crowd is going to be essentially the end goal. And the next version of Moviecoin that we release, you're actually going to be able to connect to your MetaMask wallet. We've got a API with IMDb that we're partnering with, and they've said we can say that now, so that when you vote for a movie that's going to be funded, your whole IMDb profile will be taken into account. So if you're a producer, if you're an actor, it'll be slightly more weighted towards you. If you hold a lot of movie tokens, and then based on that, you're going to be able to vote for the movies. But yeah, from now that we have a little bit more of a say at the moment.
So explain to me that voting system a little bit more. The movies that are voted on are the ones that get funded, or can a movie be funded just by anonymous people all over the world, fans and things like that?
Well, yeah, they would vote for it, right? So those anonymous people could go on and sign their wallet, but yeah, they would have slightly less of a voting role than other people, but they can still vote for it. So we're uploading the formula actually to the next version of the white paper, but let's say 1,000 anonymous people around the world voted that this film was going to be made, and let's say 100 producers voted for this film, then the anonymous crowd, as long as they've signed their MetaMask wallet to prove that it's them, then that film would get us attempt to fund it.
And how do you separate the decentralized future that you want to head towards and Moviecoin funding films almost like a studio?
I see it like a paintbrush. if you just set everything in smart contracts and just left it, as you know, you can't change a smart contract. If we're using ERC20, they're Solidity written smart contracts. Once they're on the blockchain, that's it, okay? So with all my previous work before, there's such a learning curve. There's so much to learn and understand about the way that people work, that both sides of the market work in terms of movie makers and movie funders. We're learning every day, and we're having these amazing conversations with producers, with film festivals even. We had a conversation with one of the runners of one of the film festivals today. You need to fully understand everything and the way it works to sort of make those decisions. Otherwise, you kind of, and we have gone back and forth a couple of times. At the beginning, it was, well, to make profit, we need, maybe the crowd don't know, and maybe it's the CEO of one of the biggest film investment funds in the world that knows. But in reality, that's not a decentralized autonomous organization. So we really want to make it as much of a decentralized organization as we can. So we're going to push it that way, but we can't do that from day one. There's a learning curve. There's, anyone can upload anything. So you have to be careful there as well with the type of content that people upload. You have to make sure that you know what a camera is, an account management. So a company will be installed inside each the accounts for each movie to make sure that when that movie makes profits, the movie comes back, the profits come back in. So there's all of these things that you have to have. So every day we're adding, new contracts and specifications, and
super early.
Yeah, and once that's done, it will be decentralized completely, and we hope, and we won't have to do any work or any decision making. That's kind of like the dream and the goal.
Is the platform available to use right now, or not yet?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, but it's. I mean, we've done like zero marketing. We've kind of launched it just as a kind of proof of concept. We've put some tokens on Uniswap as a seed round, and we're kind of surprised at the amount of attention and reaction it's got already, actually, because it's made us a lot busier than we thought we would be at this stage.
So we've, the films that are on there have contracted with us and messaged us, and they've all got slightly different agreements, but all of them, based on how much we raise, we will be getting a percentage of that movie. So that's all agreed. Anybody can go online and list a movie. There's our token. It has been out since Monday, the 10th of January, so it's exactly a week today. The token's been on the blockchain, on the mainnet. It's actually been a bit longer than that, but it started
gradually increasing the size of the liquidity pool there, and
so we're slowly building liquidity on Uniswap at the moment, and we've locked $100,000 of tokens for a year, so that to show that we're not a rug pull. So and we're going to build all of those positions. There'll be $1 million of liquidity. There'll be multi-million dollars. Sorry, there'll be $1 million locked, and there'll be multi-million dollars of liquidity. And then I think that we've got a very good sort of case study to say to this is a serious organisation, and something that's going to really make footway in the industry.
What exactly is the nature of the films that I saw on Moviecoin? That I saw some were, I think, partially funded, some were not funded, and some I think were fully funded. Is that right?
So this is this is confusing because that's actually how much they've been funded by other people. So tomorrow at 5 p.m, that's going to change to how much we have funded. So that's very confusing.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, as I say, we're building on the go, and that's one of the points that have been raised by a few people. So
a lot of people.
Tomorrow it's going to be fixed.
Tomorrow that's changed because we thought we wanted to show how much the movies have been funded by their internal external funders, and that's what that says. And then Moviecoin. So again, as this is like a sort of moving animal, we wanted to start off funding a very small percentage of these movies. So ideally, if you would say 10%, we would love to fund 10% of the movies. If you're an independent filmmaker and you go to package a film and you say, look, we've got 10% cash, at-risk money that's been given to us, by Moviecoin, for example, it's so much easier to raise the rest of the funds, to go to a film fund, to, you've got tax credits, you've got all these other ways of bringing money in. But we want to bring the at-risk cash to those independent filmmakers. The dream, to talk again about what we're calling is phase 3, would be to fund 100% of those movies. That's the dream. But right now, even on a low budget movie that's $2 million, to fund 100% of that's going to take all of our resources. So, we're starting off small. Now, we might have a surprise. We may have one NFT collection raise a lot more than we go out for. And then, happy days, we've raised 100%. But that probably won't happen. So we're aiming at 2%, 5%, 10% of the total profit share of the movie. We don't own the movie. We don't own any rights. We have no say. It's purely a profit share.
And that at-risk money you're describing is the hardest part. I've been involved with films myself that I was going to direct. Lots of interest, lots of companies, lots of talent interested, but nobody wanted to put that first money in to fund just the offer to an actor. And that's a lot of times what you need that first money for, is just to attach an actor. And I think maybe in the 90s, you could get letter of intents and things like that would sort of say, oh, I'll do it once you get the money. But I found that doesn't really exist anymore, at least in my experience. You really need to show them your bank account, say there's money in it for this actor. Do you accept the offer?
Exactly. Yeah, even getting like Mary Vanu or Nancy Bishop, any of these casting directors.
Big casting. I don't want to say
I don't want to say their numbers, but you would know how much you need to pay those guys to write a letter to one of their actors, right? To the agent of one of their actors. It's a lot of money. So, funny enough, we're at one of the films we spoke to today. They just want a really small amount to film 3 days to show what their actors can do and everything else, and that would be enough. A 2-minute trailer from that 3 days to then go out for us to put on Moviecoin, for them to advertise. I think would be such a big thing to help them raise the rest of the money.
Absolutely. So what are the NFTs that you're selling? Are they JPEGs? Or I understand that they support the film, but what actually are they?
They're going to be varied. I mean, at the moment, with the prize fighter ones that you've seen there, we've digitized the props, and each one represents a share of the movie's profit. But other directors we've been speaking to now, we're thinking along the lines of, you may buy an NFT and it's $1,000, and that gets you a walk-on part to the film, or it gives you tickets to the premiere. So we're kind of exploring different things with different directors. Of course, if it's a well-known film, then you've already got some content there that you can use that people are going to be interested to buy. But if it's a small director that hasn't made anything before, maybe just 1 or 2 movies, you're going to have to be creative with what the buyer gets on top of the share.
Yeah, at the beginning, it was just literally pictures from the movie. That was it. It was just simply JPEGs. From up to 3 megabytes from the movie. But as things have evolved, some movies, even though they've got big actors attached, you couldn't sell them as an 8-bit character because nobody knows who that character is. But there are a couple of movies we've got on the platform that they're part of a franchise. So everybody knows the characters. So we've started building, and we're very tempted to release some of the pictures already. We've started to build characterized versions of 5 base layers from the movie of 5 characters, and we've built 15 different traits, which obviously can be multiplied on each character, and they're going to obviously push that through their platform, and we're going to push it through our platform. So it's kind of a case-by-case basis, and some creativity is needed because it depends on the audience. So these guys, the majority of this film I'm speaking about at the moment, you could probably guess that the majority of their audience are not crypto NFT kiddies, degens sitting there waiting for the next, NFT project to drop. So there's an education element there as well. So yeah, some of them it's just pictures. So with Prizefighter, for example, we decided just props, pictures of the props, and unbelievably, a couple of them have sold. BTS, pictures of behind the scenes. So it's not an actual image of the movie. It's a behind the scene. Obviously, the actor, the talent has to confirm, their agent has to confirm they're happy with that. We want to do pictures of the script. Imagine spending $300 now on page 26 of a script. It's worth $300 now, but if it became a big successful movie, having that from a very well-known movie, we want to NFT the audio if they own the IP to the audio. So they're like the sort of segments that we see. But again, it's going to be, and that's why it's probably harder for a movie maker to do that on his or her own. We can help with that. And we're pretty much doing every facet of that right now, and seeing, we've got a good idea which one, and they've got a good idea of which one will work best for which movie.
For people who haven't been to the site yet, tell us about Prizefighter.
Do you want to tell them, James, or shall I?
Yeah, well, I think James was in the movie, so it might be best for you. But my understanding of it, it seems a pretty cool story of the director's father, who was a boxing champion, and he's kind of set this in the 1800s period. So it's quite an interesting concept and idea, I think.
Yeah, so the guy who produced it, he wrote it, and he also was one of the lead actors in it. And I'm just kind of, again, I mean, I'm sort of blown away by him as a person. You know, he's gone from, you know, doing pretty small movies to getting pretty, you know, world-renowned actors. And, you know, the story is very close to him because his dad was, don't quote me on any of this, but I think he was the heavyweight champion, the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. And I think in 1984, he was the British heavyweight boxing champion. So he amalgamated that story, wrote the script with another story of another boxer when pugilism in the 1800s was popular before normal westernized boxing. So he wrote the script, people liked it, the whole thing's been shot, the whole thing's been filmed. It's got an amazing cast. So, you know, you never know how a movie's going to do, like, you know, so, but that is one that's on our platform. And, you know, we're slowly creating an NFT collection, you know, to go with the film.
So what phase of that film's production did it get involved with Moviecoin?
So they're now in post-production. So it was much earlier that they were, you know, they were looking for funds to finish the movie. So it was a much earlier, quite a while ago. I can't remember the exact date, but it was a while ago when they were looking, you know, for funds for the movie. So yeah, there's a production company involved. They've done very well to raise the money that they have, I think. So I think the film's going to be coming out in May. So we will have, you know, we have an agreement with Akama to make sure that the profits are paid every 1 to 3 months. And again, it's really hard getting this messaging across because, as you know, the budgets, it depends how you sit, you know, the budget can be displayed in different ways, right? Different currencies. But that movie, because of the way it's structured, and again, please don't quote me on any of these numbers, but it only needs to make about £1 or £2 million to make a profit. So anything over that will be a profit, which net proceeds will go towards movie holders.
So as far as the investment and the profit sharing part of that, how I know here in the States, for example, I interviewed a filmmaker, Trevor Hawkins, who put out a bunch of NFTs as an investment into his film, and he ended up, I think, raising around $10,000, and he had to give it all back because he ran into some legal issues with the SEC, saying that he didn't, he didn't vet his investors, and he was potentially breaking some laws, and it was fine. He ended up just giving the money back, and that was that. Do you have to do anything so you don't run into any issues like that with how yours is set up?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the US strategy, you guys have got it tough there with the SEC, right? But it's surprising that an NFT project wouldn't be seen as a commodity rather than a security, frankly, because you are buying you're buying art, you're buying something, you're not buying a token which is purely speculative. I mean, in the UK, you do have similar structures in laws, and of course, yeah, we have to vet the investors and the people that buy the NFTs. We have to do AML and KYC, and we know who that NFT goes to and who the prop goes to on PrizeFighter. And down the line, this is stuff we've got to work damn hard on if we want to do this in other jurisdictions. For
our ICO, for example, we will have to, as we've put, exclude the USA, because if to come under the SEC is not something, that, and it's a shame. I do see it as a shame. I mean, we're not trying to, we're honest people, right? We want to help people, and there's similar issues in the UK with similar regulatory bodies. So yeah, there are definite issues that that you're going to have to face, and using with the ICO, if you use an exchange that does KYC and AML, then anything under $1,000 so far that we've been told by our lawyers, you're okay. Anything above, we have to do our own KYC and AML, which obviously adds a layer. Now, I can understand that, and you want to know where the money's come from. You want to know the customer, because you could be accepting funds from anywhere. But the same argument I know James will give is, that happens in every currency, in every fiat currency. And if you look at, I mean, it's a big quagmire hole to go down, but I could talk for a long time about our banks here and the issues, some of the fines that they've paid. So yeah, there's a lot there, and simply we have to exclude ourselves from a lot of those jurisdictions. We've got, we don't actually generate a huge amount ourselves. So, I think we can be open about the contracts that we've signed, but the talent get, depending on who we've signed the deals with, between 10 and 25%. The majority of the money goes to the production company, and obviously in most cases the majority of that, and I do mean the majority, goes into funding their next film. So if a lot of them want to film more, everyone we've spoken to, they don't want this to be their what they call it, one show rodeo. They want to make multiple films. So if we just if they don't put the money into the film and run off with it, and we get, or whatever, sued or whatever it is, they're not going to get their next movie funded. So by having a smaller percentage, we reduce our risk. And also, like I say, everybody that we've spoken to, this is not their first film. This is not their first rodeo. And if they can prove to the community that they've returned a profit, which is really what we're working hard to do, then the next films are also going to be, they're going to be much easier for them to raise money from the community. So yeah, we need to exclude people from the US from buying our coin. Now, obviously, a big part of decentralization is if you have decentralized exchange, it's not centralized in any one place. So that's why if you look at Uniswap, I think they peaked, again, don't quote me, I think these are the rough numbers, they peaked $7 billion 24-hour trading volume. So they've surpassed Coinbase, which is the biggest centralized exchange in the world. So these decentralized exchanges, they've got 3 billion of liquidity, between $2 and $5 billion of liquidity. Same with SushiSwap, who, they were a fork. Chef Naomi forked Uniswap, and they've got $2 or $3 billion of liquidity, which I never thought would happen. Just copying someone's open source code, creating your own one, and vampire extraction to take the customers, and they have, and they've got a huge amount of liquidity. And even like bonds that are coming out now. So if you look at Olympus Pro, I think they're doing $500 million a day, and they're doing bonding, right, rather than, but they're having problems with the SEC actually, because it's under a bond. But yeah, so I think got to be really careful, tread really carefully, make sure that we're as fair as possible, give most of the proceeds back to the film, make sure that the people that we're speaking to own the IP, and we're pretty sure they do. We've got legal contracts to say that each of these movies own the IP to the movies. It's down to them to then contract with the actors, with the talent, to make sure that they get paid. We're going to do the absolute best we can do.
There may be two answers to this, but are you really, because you're trying to mitigate so much risk and prove the concept of Moviecoin, are you looking for independent filmmakers, or are you looking for David Fincher to come and go make a movie on Moviecoin?
We're not looking for anyone, to be honest, Matt. This is the thing. At the beginning we did, and now, the movie's going to make itself, like an automatic market maker in a decentralized exchange. The market's going to make itself. At the beginning, I used to love Indiegogo, these tiny movies, right, where, I know the guy that produced Get Out, right, for $4 million, returned $300 million, right, 100x on their investment. So it's so hard to know. And then we got interest from, I can't say certain names, we've had messages from studios and, huge productions with, $50 million plus. And it's like, oh, well, this is something we didn't expect a week after launch. But again, is that going away from, it's only going to be a tiny percentage of that we're going to raise. But, if you were to ask me personally, forgetting about money and everything, I really love these like small gritty movies.
For me, it's the smaller ones. I'd love to help the smaller guys.
Look at
they make better films.
If you look at, can we say about the CC one?
Yeah, we spoke to the guy today from who wrote a film called Cardboard Gangsters, and he contacted us a few days ago with regards to having the next movie funded, and we watched the movie. So we sat down and watched his movie, and both of us were just like, wow. It's so dark and so gritty. You kind of came away and you need a drink after watching it. And it's very rare I watch any movie and have like any kind of reaction to it. I'm quite kind of like whatever. But we watched that and we were like, we want to make this guy's movie happen now. I would personally like to give this guy the money to fund it. You know, it's I honestly go away and watch the film. It's a great film.
Yeah, and he did that for 400K, and as a act, I guess, and as I act as well. Since I went to that acting school, when I watch a movie, it's ruined films for me because I watch the performance now rather than everything, and the performances are like, they're on point. And you're thinking, okay, how can, $20, $50, $100 million movies fail? And this $400,000, they doubled their money overall. But how can this, tiny budget movie do so well? How can this tiny budget movie nobody's really heard of? So yeah, they uploaded a movie on our platform. They want us to, they want help with their next one. And we've been talking to these guys quite a bit, and so I love, Fish Tank, Andrea Arnold's films like American Honey. I remember watching that and just being transfixed to the screen. I mean, it had Shia LaBeouf, right? I guess it's a bit more like Snatch, where it's kind of an indie movie, but they get a big star attached and up the budget a little bit. But we love those movies, and so ideally, I guess the answer would be to that, Matt, would be to as not have a specific genre. And go for as many as we can. But I do believe the market will make itself, because, over time, you'll see some movies making really good returns, some movies not, and it will be based on those results.
Do you see Moviecoin being involved in the marketing of these films, generating interest in the NFTs and in the coin?
I think we have to be really careful of that, to be honest, because with the the conduct authority, you have to be very careful of advertising, and you come under all sorts of scrutiny. So I think we need to leave that down. I mean, we don't want to be a marketing agency, and going back to what you said at the beginning, a production house, don't really want to be a production house. We want to be a facilitator. So I think with the individual movie makers, they need to market it, right? They've got all the actors who have got social followings. They've got they know exactly who their target demographic are. They've got all the connections. They've got the budget. We don't have money aside, to do that. Now, one thing we are doing is a percentage of the taxes we're putting into a custodial wallet, and one day we will just literally say we want to make these movies, right? Which would be fantastic, and we'll do an online voting protocol for the crowd if there's enough money there, right? From that 25% of tax. But for now, no, we will not be marketing the movies.
The directors and filmmakers and production companies you're talking about now, are their films mostly partially funded, or are some people coming to you with zero funding?
A bit of both, but a lot of them, I guess, because the bigger budget ones that you've seen, anything over sort of 3 million, a lot of those have been funded and they just need some more. So, but the smaller ones typically have zero. If you were to generalize, that's what I would say, that the smaller ones have not got anything and the bigger ones have got something.
Where exactly are you right now? What do you want people to know as far as, like, should people just keep an eye on Moviecoin? Should they be submitting films to Moviecoin? Should they be calling you to talk about something else or investments? Or where exactly are you right now?
That's a very good question. Yeah. Very good question, actually. So, because the thing is, Matt, we have not stopped. I mean, we've been building it for a year. We didn't start, in 2017 when we purchased it. When we wake up, we're on the computer. When we go to bed at 5, 6 a.m., we're on the computer. So we're slowly building the team, and we've got full-time employees. We've got 4 full-time developers. We've got full-time moderator in LA, a full-time moderator in Europe. We've got 2 full-time PR person. So we're built, and we've got a couple other team leaders that are Dan and Joe that are excellent. Then they're sharing load with James and James. So we got. And we've got Alfie and Alfie. So we've got a really good team, but it's non-stop. So, we don't really want to bring more inbound work. But I think to support it, ideally, we would want people to buy Moviecoin or Movie Token if you're a crypto tech person, it's a token. We'd want people to buy our coin on the website. We would also want people to support the NFTs for each individual movie, even though there's not much up.
And we'd love people to bring to our attention any small directors that have made some really cool movies that have just slipped under the radar as well. We'll always sit down and look at those and watch those when we get the time. You know.
But we would say if people are in a developed enough stage with their movie, we would love them to upload the movie. So, we're actually going to reduce the number of movies on the homepage because it's a bit confusing. At the beginning, we wanted 10,000 movies, and now we're like, hold on, there's just too many to search through. So we are looking to reduce it from 3 to 5, or maybe 1 to 5. We're having all of us are getting together tomorrow. So, that's what if somebody's in an advanced stage, because we don't want people to just upload any idea they've got for a movie. It's not enough. If you've really got the perfect cast in mind, you've been sleeping on this idea. It's you've written the script. You've spoken at least to a casting director or the actors. You've got the whole thing scoped in your mind. You've got the locations planned of where you want to go. If you're at what I would call like a more advanced stage, we would love for you to list the movie because they're the movies that we want people to be able to upvote and get funded. So I'd say they're the three things at the moment that would really help. But also, we're trying to build the community. Like we've done no advertising. We're slowly building. Twitter goes up by 10 followers a day, but they're real followers. You go onto an NFT Twitter site, and they'll always have 20, 50, 100,000, but they'll get 20 retweets per tweet. So that they've paid for the followers. So we want to have we've got real followers on there. We want to do the same. We're not so worried about Instagram. We just set one up a couple of weeks ago so that people can tag our Instagram, but rather on Twitter and social platforms, we want people to follow those platforms and join a community and get excited about it like we are.
Yeah, I mean we're just kind of thinking slow and steady wins the race with this. Just be the tortoise, plod along, keep doing what we're doing, and we should get where we want to get.
What do you think the promise is of decentralization, of crypto, of the blockchain that Hollywood doesn't quite have? Why not just go to LA and talk to a bunch of production companies and studios and Netflix and try to get your movie made that way and finance that way? And people will do this, but to me, I'm very excited by something like Moviecoin because it seems to have in its DNA a promise of doing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, in this era we are now of kind of free speech and narrative-driven media and politics, there's always going to be, in a centralized organization or kind of centralized entity, there's going to be a narrative or a stance that those people with the control are going to take. And if we can kind of go at it from that angle that, you can make what you want here, within reason, of course, and we're not going to control your narrative. We're not going to care what your political or religious or ideological belief is to a point on the platform. We just want to make the movies. We just want to get the movies made. Whereas I think in the centralized world, it's very much narrative driven.
Yeah, and anyone who's into crypto, they're kind of most people are free-minded, right? The banks or the establishment, whatever you want to call them, tend to be against it. They're going to create their own, they're going to create their own currencies. But there's a real movement now. Whether it's NFTs, whether it's just buying crypto, whatever it is, and the people that are holding it believe in a different future than the one that we seem to be heading for. Completely different conversation. But as and I think that's where we see this going. Whereas Hollywood would control the narrative. Pretty much the crowd, right, can control the narrative. And, if you think 10 years in the future where anyone can just upload, get their movie funded, and it can be on any narrative, it will completely change the way that the narrative films. But on that as well, there's a couple of other things. If you were to invest in a film, typically you need, minimum 100K would be an entry requirement. So apart from something we're getting over at the moment, but the gas fees, not go into that. But, you could invest $300, $500 into a movie now. And I mean, that's not just with movies. There's fractional property, any asset-backed ownership you can fractionalize now. But one thing with Moviecoin is that you're going to be able to invest as little as you want and have a share of a movie. So your favorite actor, your favorite movie, and again, it's been 100K in the past. And the final thing to sort of answer that question, Matt, is that, when we're talking to these smaller movie makers, it's unbelievable. And Hickey's kind of been amazed at how much they don't receive from these big streaming platforms. So they don't release the figures of how many views they've had. And the producer's swearing that this film's had millions of views. Because I've heard of it, Hickey's heard, everyone's heard of it. And they're getting like £200,000 back from a streaming platform. And you're like, hold on, you put all this time, all this effort, everybody's heard of it, and you've made a loss. apart from Cardboard Gangsters, but everybody else, very, very rare to make a profit. But why? When the movie's amazing and it's had the views. So again, I think when, decentralized streaming platforms come, which is something that's in our phase 3, then there's a lot of technological difficulties there, right? Because block sizes are so small, and to use IPFS per frame and all these things. But when that eventually comes out, you can literally say, go to Moviecoin, pay $2 a month, $3 a month, and it'll be on the ledger. 90% goes to the movie maker, and 10% will go to us. And we're not worried about making money on that part. We just want to make sure that people can stream their movies, and that the profits will go to the movie makers. So I'm sorry that's a long answer, but it's, I guess, narrative, lower barrier to entry, and decentralization of the distribution process.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, maybe talk a little bit more about your team, because I know on your website you have a pretty large team, and of the other people I know who are trying to build something like this, they're basically doing it either by themselves or with a very small team, and it's very focused on their own projects, as opposed to Moviecoin, which is focused on sort of a lot of projects. So what is the team that you've assembled?
We've been very lucky with this, really. I mean, it kind of was us two at the start, and then the devs came on board. And then I think we're just very lucky to have a good kind of group of friends and contacts around us that have all pitched in, joined the team, and we've kind of built it from there, and it's grown, and everyone works really well together. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, we all knew each other, so there was no job description on LinkedIn. Everybody knows each other. There's common interests either in technology or movies, and unbelievably, some of the guys on the team are very well connected in those areas, and they've made incredible introductions. Like I would say we're meeting the biggest film director in the world tomorrow. So I don't want to.
Certainly in the UK. Certainly in the UK.
Yeah, I don't say the name, but they're interested. So I can't say their name in case they're not interested, but so I'd say they're the biggest in the UK, and so it's just through amazing people are now wanting to get involved, and it's probably moved a bit quicker than we thought. But the team, everybody we've known, different time zones, which helps with moderation on social platforms, and just knowing that everybody works hard, everybody's incentivized with movie tokens, so they believe in the project.
And for my listeners here in the States, should we continue to keep our eye on Moviecoin or ignore it because we're not allowed in yet?
Well,
I want to be careful what I say.
Please do, because we would love to explore some sort of mechanism to get more of you guys on board. Whether, we'll figure that out.
We have to be really careful, Matt, with all of this, but, there shouldn't be a problem with NFTs. Let me say what I say. Shouldn't be a problem with ERC 721 tokens, okay? Because, you're purchasing something, obviously the profit needs to be taken into account. So, look, I spent time in LA, a good amount of time in LA, within my visa limits, obviously. And, we're fully aware Hollywood's there, and fully aware that, lots of the movies are there. So, just because the whole point of this, right, is to be decentralized. So, it shouldn't really matter. But obviously for the ICO, for the initial raise, then, we need to be very careful of how we raise funds. But, people can go onto the DEX now, which is completely decentralized, which won't come under any, again, you have to be careful what we say.
Definitely don't go onto the DEX if you're from the USA.
Yeah. So, but obviously we would like to find a mechanism, and there's so many. Like with Cardano now, you've got token burners that convert from ERC20 token to Cardano. So there's lots of different options, and we hope to find a way that everybody can be involved.
Fantastic. Well, I love the concept. I will definitely be keeping my eye on Moviecoin. And is there anything else we didn't talk about that you want listeners to know about?
No, I think we're good. We're putting in 20-hour days, so that's where we are at the moment. We're kind of overworked and stressed out with it all, but we're going to carry on. We're going to keep plodding on.
Yeah, we've had lots of calls today, Matt, like one after the other. So my brain isn't fully functioning, but you've asked amazing questions, and it's really piqued my interest in what you do now.
Yeah,
so we're going to be checking your
subscribing
podcast.
to the podcast now.
Subscribing, I think.
Please do. And thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I love the idea, and I will be keeping an eye on it, and I hope we can continue the conversation.
Thanks very much. Thanks. Lovely to chat, Matt.
Pleasure.
Thank you.